everybody in here.
This will go on the moment frame, and then our purlins will go on top and notch those. Yeah, I think they... Everybody, welcome to another YouTube video. I am here today with Joe Sadler from Habitations Inc.
Residential Design Group.
Residential Design Group, dude. And these guys are well known throughout, we were just talking, they're well known throughout Utah, Idaho, Montana now.
Montana, Washington. Done projects all over.
You guys are like us then, dude. You guys go, hey, wherever the money is, right?
That's right.
We gotta go.
Yeah, cool projects. Yeah.
And before we get too far along, I'd just like to introduce Hess Lumber, who is paying for today's video, who we also have done this massive sign for. So, just talking with Joe. We brought Joe on as, I like to get people involved in these videos, as you guys know, that know more about this stuff than I do. And it makes me look smarter than I really am. So, anyway, Joe, it's good to have you here. And
Thanks a lot. Thanks for having me.
Dude, just one thing. I was just watching the show the other day. Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves. Dude.
Oh, yeah.
Kevin Costner.
Yeah.
You remember that show?
Yeah.
And I was watching in the sets and all the castles and different things, and I can't believe, dude, how many timber frames.
Yeah.
They're everywhere.
Yeah.
And like,
Yep.
you just got done talking about the Tudor style.
Yeah, that style. I mean, timber framing has been around, actual post and beam structural since 500 BC, so we're seeing that. But the Tudor really became kind of more of a decorative style, incorporating that and even exposed beams on the inside. You know, and we get a lot of requests on the architectural side. Nobody wants a house that feels like a museum.
Yeah.
You know, they want to warm it up. So and wood, there's almost no better way than wood to bring that inside, whether it's on your floor, but really the rustic beams and that.
That's a good way to warm up your product.
The coziness, I'll tell you what, cozy is just a zing word. Everybody, you know, I love it. They hear that word and they want inviting and cozy, and timber's the way to go.
I never thought of it that way, but the main reason I got Joe here with us today is we've been doing work together for a long time, right?
Yeah. I would say
6, 7, 8 years.
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen your plans.
15.
Yeah, I've seen your plans as long as I've been building houses, and I started in 2004.
Yeah.
And so the thing I love about Habitations and what Joe does with their design and style is, and I've told them this, the timbers that they incorporate in their plans are always how we like to build them. So it's a little different style than maybe your traditional timber frame, but you know how the king posts are proud of the rafters and the arches and the principal posts are proud. And it just kind of allows for our joinery, and you guys have always drawn, first of all, you draw a lot of timbers into your plans. I mean, I guess it depends on the style,
Right.
Yeah. And you know, you just always seem to have that attention for detail.
Well, and that's it's really the authenticity, you know, it really is. I mean, timbers, if you just say, I want a timber frame, you're like, well, holy cow, do you want provincial French? Do you want country French? Do you want English? You want Tudor, Far Eastern, you know, even Scandinavian, you know, all of those. So are we talking curved? There's so many different ways in joinery. Do we want metal braces? Do we want hidden fasteners? Do we, you know, there's so many things. And so we really try to do our due diligence to say, how is this really going to go together, so that once it, you know, should this go through that, or should that go through this?
Yeah.
And how does it go together?
And how much room do we have to incorporate this piece?
So there's so many little teeny details, but when it's up, it just makes all the difference, you know. So
here's where I wanted to go with this. For our listeners, okay, whether you guys have done a home and you're going to do another home, whether it be a beginner, obviously a lot of our followers and the people who are interested in what we do is just that. They love timber work. And it's funny, I had a guy 2-3 days ago that he's actually going to have us do a job, and he says, dude, I didn't even know your profession existed until somebody said they were following you or whatever. And I'm like, you didn't know timber framers existed? Yeah. And so now we go back to, they said, yeah, I just thought the framer did it. Well,
exactly.
We see a lot of that here, and the framer does it, and no offense to the framers, but they don't have the tools that, you know, we use. So they're up there nailing things together, or didn't you say
metal hangers? Yeah, I mean,
somebody was putting a Simpson
metal hanger on a rafter tail, you know, where it's
and a lot of times homeowners or our clients, customers, they don't know any different.
No, exactly.
And so I just wanted to educate to our good people out there that hey, what's the process? Because I get a lot of people too that come to us and say, hey, look. Where do we start?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And I know you guys see this, you're on the front line, dude, and I don't know, I hear this expression a lot, but if you plan to fail, or
if you fail to
plan,
you plan to fail.
Plan to fail.
That's right. You definitely do. I mean, well, and Frank Lloyd Wright says it's way easier to use an eraser than a sledgehammer. You know, get it right on paper, spend the time, it'll make all the difference, you know. Then you know you're gonna love it when it's in there. And so if you're gonna start out, whether you want a yard pavilion, a trellis, a pergola, or if you're doing a house, you know, I mean, you need to know, what is that flavor? You know, is it Scandinavian? Is it, you know, I mean, we've done some really cool Oriental mountain style. It looks like, pagoda stuff. But you gotta get those details. I mean, even some of that coping and the details.
So what do you tell when they come in to meet with you and they say, okay, I kind of know what I want.
Yeah.
How do you get them to choose a style?
So then we, you know, there's a lot of good details that and I hate to say like Pinterest and stuff, but that's a lot of people kind of come with all of that. And it's our job to kind of help filter them down. Sometimes architecture, the problem that we see people get into is they like a lot of different styles, and so they blend, you know. And we saw in the 90s, we saw timber frames going. Ivory was, you know, timber frames are popular. They just threw a timber truss, just a king truss on every home they did. So you're like, that home was built between 91 and 96. You know it.
And that probably shouldn't go with that style. Yeah. They're combining 3 or 4 styles, right?
And so as the architect's job is really to help filter that down and say, okay, that's great that you like that. We've got a lady right now, they're doing in Heber City, and she loves French country French. Yeah. And he is Yellowstone, all, you know. And we're like, okay, we need to get these to fit together, and we're not even going to touch it until we get them to kind of agree on some looks, and then we start to distill it down into something that really makes sense together. And the key to timelessness is that we don't blend that style, that we pick something that they can both agree to and not get divorced.
Yeah.
You know, and then we really start to pull those details together, and then with timber, it's all about the detail. You know, how is the end? You know, the one that we saw in your other shop over there that Drew's doing, with kind of that angle, the
braces.
Yeah, the angle brace was amazing. You know, that detail. But that's what we need to look at and timber truss. How that is it a king? Is it a hammer? There's so many different things, and how does it go together? Some people love the metal brackets that are holding that together. Other people want the mortise and tenon with the oak pegs. So,
a lot of the guys we're dealing with, they've got a little bit of money, and this isn't the first rodeo, right? This isn't their first home.
Yeah.
So a lot of times we're dealing with builders, and a lot of times the good thing about dealing with builders is, for the most part, they know kind of the whole concept of building, but sometimes you run into these guys that don't, and maybe cut corners. And my point here isn't to like say, well, you're an idiot, you're bad, this or that. It's not that. It's, you know, how can we educate these people to maybe to understand I hear a lot too that timbers aren't structural and they are structural.
Yeah.
So there's different, like, you know, using something as an accent versus something like John Lewis, where we're holding up the roof.
Right, exactly, with the heavy snow load. I mean, and we always want to I mean, you really get what you pay for. If you're paying attention to those details, I don't think you get, that's kind of a law. You get what you pay for. If you pay attention up front and you know what you want, and you're looking at those details,
Yeah.
you're gonna be really happy with that finished product.
But another thing that we've seen too, and I don't know, like just from your standpoint, is where they want the timber look, they want the beams and stuff,
Yeah.
but they don't want to pay for the money. But here's how I try to educate them. Well, if you don't put a timber, let's say timber post, and you just do the truss, you still got to finish those dimensional lumbered posts with something. You got to
Yeah.
wrap it, and then you're doing rock, and you're painting the wrap, and then you're doing aluminum soffit, you know, whatever the deal may be.
Yeah.
It seems like sometimes people, have you seen that on?
Yeah, you're really kind of stepping over $1 to pick up a dime, you know, because then your trim guy, your painter, everything has to come together. If they're wrapping it with a finish or something like that, you're exactly right. And a lot of times, if we can, and structural versus decorative, you know, there's not a lot of difference, and they're really just because we want that mass in there, and we see so many finish guys that and those joints, whether they're mitering those or not, that timber that'll move. It'll always move, and those cracks will expose, and you'll just, you know, 2 years down the road, you're just gonna hate it, and you don't even want to look at them after that, because then you're remembering, oh, look at that big crack that just keeps on widening and widening. Whereas the timber over time, that age and what happens to the timber when they're done right is character.
Right.
You know, it's phenomenal. I mean, the one that you did in our kitchen, amazing. You know, I look at that and I just am like,
I'm so glad that turned out.
oh my gosh, I'm just like, this is so killer, and it's one of my wife's favorite things. And we went from paint into the timber, into the brick, and it was amazing.
Yeah, it finished out nice.
So cool.
Well, see, and that's you bring up another good point, man. Is with the shrinking and the changing of the wood, because wood's going to change. It was a living organism, even though it's dead now. It's still going to change.
Oh,
and so sometimes when you do the construction like we do it versus like a framer does it or a finish guy, you know, when that wood shrinks with the oak dowels, everything gets tighter, stronger, and you know, hopefully becomes a little better. But anyway, what I have here in front of me, and this is just kind of a quick example of some of the stuff that I get from, you know, maybe some clients, but I'll get a plan and it'll have a design on the plan of the timbers. You know, the architect will do the homework of throwing in some posts and different things, but they don't spend a lot of time on the timbers. A lot of other architects, and like I said, I'm not trying to say, well, this architect or that architect is bad. I'm just saying, hey, look, maybe they don't charge money for that timber or whatever, but they don't put a lot of time and effort into it. So we'll get something like this, and they'll say, we want something big and crazy.
Pizzazz, you know, and you're like, well, what do you know?
So you kind of, that's what you kind of mean by going and doing them find out questions.
Definitely. Well, in
Pinterest.
architecture with the massing, especially if we're doing a massive, you know, if it's something like a covered deck that maybe even an exposed basement, that, you know, that timber post might be 20 to 25 feet tall.
Yeah.
And have we, you know, and obviously we could get away with an 8x8, but man, it's gonna look like a popsicle stick out there.
Yeah.
But I mean, gosh, you know, what can we do to get the correct massing so that when I'm looking at it from the back, it
all proportions.
Yeah, it all makes sense and has that proper balance, you know.
So, yeah, I love the people who want to use the 8x8s, and I love the people that want to use the 12x12s, and my purpose is just, okay, what is the proper technique? Ultimately, you can do what you want, right? But what is the proper technique? What's going to save you guys money? Because like I said, a lot of times they get a structure in there they're going to have to finish it 3 different ways and be 6s to what it would cost to do the proper technique of timbers, because you're handling it less. So, and I know you kind of help people don't you kind of help people figure a budget or kind of give some budgetary numbers or ideas?
I mean,
How do you go about doing
a lot of times we try to bring a builder on as early as possible, just because their finger is so much more on the pulse of the costs and how, you know, what's lumber doing, labor, concrete, steel, all that kind of stuff. So as early as we can get that builder on, so that we're designing plans instead of artwork, that's what we want to do. And then the builder can raise a flag, you know, and then that way as well, the client can give us kind of their top 10 list. This is what's important to me, this is what's not so important, and so that we can say, hey, let's hit these hot buttons, and this is, you know, where we want to spend the money, whether it's view or aesthetics or whatever, you know, and then we can, in those other areas, we can kind of dial it back and be a little more practical. But yeah, if we could bring kind of a builder on that can kind of raise red flags so that the budget kind of stays in line, that's really helpful. And then just looking at, you know, and just saying, talking to the client, educating them about what is, you know, if they're bringing us pictures from the internet or something that they've taken somewhere from Montana to Park City, we can say, what do you like about this picture? You know, is it the rafter tails? And if so, how do we get that look? And is it going to be structural? If not, is it going to be decorative? That kind of thing.
The purpose of today's video, really and honestly, is just to try to help you guys, and hopefully this did help a little bit. I'm gonna post below all Joe's information. We've also done some videos on Instagram where we'll tag him. So if you're following us, which you are, I'll get you in touch with Joe. Joe is as good as they come in as far as architects. I love everything you guys do. Like I've said, it goes with what we are trying to do. Yeah. So another goal for us is to make the process as easy as possible for you, the viewer, the customer, the client, right?
We just want you, when it's all done, we want you just to, you can't stop looking at it because you love it so much.
Yeah.
You know, you're just like, you know.
That's my favorite part.
Yeah.
It's like when we can't leave and they're just, this house, the whole house is just amazing.
It's just exactly what I wanted, you know. And we want it, so many people say, gosh, you did a lot of things that I never even would have thought of or known about. And that's our job, you know, that's why you hired us, because we want it done right. We want you to just be, you know, tickled, for lack of a better word.
One, this is the house. This is your dream house. You know, I mean, these guys are throwing it all on the line to make this dream house happen. So.
Well, and that thought process from the beginning, I don't know if we got that earlier, is that Frank Lloyd Wright said that an eraser is way better than a sledgehammer. You know, if we spend that time up front and really think about it, you're not only going to be excited about seeing it happen, but when it's all together, you're gonna feel that time was definitely well spent.
To spend the money to do it right the first time and not have to, you know, pay for it twice or 3 times. I mean, that's the whole idea of planning, like we said.
Go
ahead,
Dave. Fail to plan, you plan to fail.
That's right, man. So, ultimately, if you guys have any questions for Joe or me, please comment below, and we'll get those answered to the best of our ability. And once again, we'd like to thank our buddies over at Hess Lumber. They're going to be surprised as all get out for this awesome sign they're about to receive. But we'd like to thank them for sponsoring today's video. So, like always, guys, keep following along, subscribe, whatever, and can't wait for the next video. The more content we'll get in front of you. So.